It's that time of year again. Adobe has given us a new version of Photoshop Elements, and I'm here to walk you through the new features. G'day, it's Melissa Shannon, founder of digitalscrapbookinghq.com, and here I am with you today with the brand new Adobe Photoshop Elements 2021. Each year around this time, Adobe releases its latest version in the Photoshop Elements series, and this year is no different. So keep watching this video to hear about the new features in Photoshop Elements. So let's jump into it. This is the home screen in Photoshop Elements, and as well as some social media and a little "what would you like to do today" box. There are some cards to tell you about new features and upgraded features. When you first open the software, you'll be able to select your previous version over here, and then it'll customize these cards to suit your needs. So let's jump into the photo editor and get started looking at one of the new features. When you first open up Photoshop Elements editor, you'll be taken to the quick mode, where you can do some basic edits, and there's a lot of automatic adjustments that can help you through the process of editing a photo. Something that Adobe has added to this version of Photoshop Elements is the ability to create moving photos. Under the Enhance menu, you can click on Moving Photos. A moving photo is basically an animated GIF or GIF, depending on who you believe. You can apply a number of different effects, but the best results are when you have a bit of separation between the foreground and the background of your image. So let's see how this one goes. We'll double click to apply any of the effects that are listed in the right hand side and wait a few moments for Photoshop to work its magic. And now you can see this cute little animation of Matthew zooming in and zooming out. Of course, there's lots of other options you can choose from. Let's try tilt up and down. And we've got pan left. And if you want to feel a little bit seasick, you can even have your images moving clockwise or counterclockwise. So it's a fun little effect, and you can export these images as a GIF file, and then you can use it on social media or on your website. There are some advanced settings here. You can adjust the pixel width to fit whichever platform you're going to go for. So here's the end result and another sample. I think this is a fun feature to play around with. Why not give it a try yourself in Photoshop Elements 2021? Simply open your photos, click on Enhance, and then Moving Photos. Over the years, Photoshop Elements have been adding lots of new features regarding enhancing the look of faces in your photograph. So let's show you the latest, which is the head tilt. So what we're going to do is open up our photograph. There are 3 modes in Photoshop Elements: quick, guided, and expert mode. I tend to work in expert mode most of the time because it has access to the full different range of tools. But if you'd like to learn more about guided edit or quick edits, you will want to check out my class, Fast Photo Fixes. I'll leave a link in the description. So let's check out this new feature, which is called Adjust Face Tilt. So the first thing we're going to do is click on the Enhance menu and then click on Adjust Facial Features. In the box that appears, you can see that we have a lot of different options that have been added over the years. So I'm going to click on My Face because I'm the person with the head tilt, and then I'm going to go over to this Face Tilt section, and I'm going to adjust the angle of the face. I'm going to drag this angle slider to the left until basically looking straight ahead. And you can see before, after, it has made quite a difference. Let's click OK. Now, when you use the Enhance menu to adjust facial features, you are editing the current layer of your photo. So you might want to go ahead and save a backup before you make any changes like this. I always tend to save my edited photos as a PSD file with a descriptive name, so it makes it easy for me to find it again. You can see before and after. It's quite easy to adjust the face to get a great looking group photo. Do you ever need a little bit of help with your landscape photos? Let's take a look at Perfect Landscape Guided Edit. This is one of a couple of new guided edits in Photoshop Elements. To use the guided edits, you just need to open up Photoshop Elements and click on the photo editor and then click on the guided edit tab. The Perfect Landscape is underneath the special edits tab and you can find it here. They're all in alphabetical order. So if you're looking for something specific, that's how you find it. Let's click on Perfect Landscape. And as is usual for the guided edits, all your instructions, the tutorial is on the right. Here's everything you'll need to get the results you want. So I've chosen this particular landscape photo so that we can try some of these tools. So I'm pretty happy with the crop of the photo, but I can always crop out this little bit of reflection over here. So let's click and drag until we get a crop we like and click the green check mark to apply the crop. Our next item is to straighten. As you can see here, the whole horizon is not super straight. So we'll just click on something that we know is straight. So we can grab the zoom tool and just zoom in and then draw a line on something that we know is actually vertical. Like, for example, this crane. So you can see there, that's the original. And now we've straightened our image. Now we'll use Remove Haze. And you'll see that's really given us a bit more saturation on our photo in the colors. And you're starting to see some differences between the original photo and the edited photo. If you want to compare, you can go to the View drop-down and then choose before and after, vertical or horizontal. I'm going to go back to after so that I can continue our edits and see my photo as big as I can. Now, there's nothing wrong with this sky here, but for the purposes of this tutorial, I wanted to show you the new sky that you can choose from. So there are 12 new skies that you can choose from. Photoshop Elements Sensei Engine works out what part of your image is the sky and then replaces it. Then you can use the move tool just below here to move the sky around. That one looks quite good here, but let's try a few others. This actually looks like a bit of a smoke haze, which will probably give many of us PTSD. It's a bit of a sunset. Now, one thing I will mention, if you are going to be editing your skies, take a look at where the sun is in your photo. So as you can see, the sun is actually shining in the direction of these buildings here and lighting them up quite nicely. So if I put a sunrise here, although it looks amazing, let me grab that move tool, although it looks kind of amazing, there's a bit of a problem. If the sun was over here, these reflections and these buildings wouldn't look like that. But you know, this isn't real life. This is demonstrating a new feature. So we'll let it slide. We can also use the auto match color tone to help with your images. And let's show you how that would look with the night sky, because I think that makes more sense. And we'll use the move tool to just move the sky. And you can see it changes the color tone of my whole image there. Let's go back to our sunrise. just for the purposes of this example. All right, you have the option to adjust the edge in the edge of the sky in this next step. And as you can see, it moves the edge up and down. So if you turn it to the right, see it's adjusted that line of the hills there. And if I adjust it to the left, it's made the sky a little higher. But in my experience playing around with this feature, it's usually really accurate. So I'll take it back to 0. You can also use the refine edge brush, but in our case, Perth is so flat that there's really nothing to refine there. And then we have the spot healing tool as step 5. You can do some fixes. So I'm going to increase that brush size and let's get rid of that crane. I mean, it was helpful when I was trying to straighten the image, but now you've served your purpose, little crane. And again, we can zoom in and just make sure that we get all of those little bits and pieces out of our image. So I think our landscape is looking pretty good. Let's take a look at the before and after again. We use the hand tool over on the left to move it all around, so you can really see how much the remove haze feature has worked. And then removing that crane has turned out pretty great. Let's click on next, and then you have the option to save your file or continue editing in the quick edit mode, in expert mode, or share it on Flickr or Twitter. I'm going to continue working in expert mode, and you can see here one of the fun things about expert mode is that we can have a sneak peek behind the scenes on how Adobe has actually done all these steps. So if you're interested, you can play around with those layers. So there you have it, before and after. You can see that's quite a big change and great improvements with Photoshop Elements, Guided Edit, Perfect Landscape. Let's take a look at another new guided edit in Photoshop Elements 2021, the Duotone Effect. Click on Fun Edits and then Duotone Effect. You might recognize this duotone effect. It's having a bit of a moment on social media, probably thanks to Spotify, who's been using it in a lot of their artwork lately. There's 4 simple steps to the duotone effect, and let's go through them now. First thing we can do is crop our photo. You can choose what size you want for various social media options, and then they have some standard photo sizes as well. Let's go for the Facebook event, and we click the green check mark to apply the crop, and now we can look at the duotone effects. Duotone just means that instead of say black and white, we're using 2 colors for our photograph. So in this one, it's purple and blue. In this one, it's very dark purple and red, 2 shades of green, purple and yellow, purple and blue, and pink and yellow. There's also gradient duotones. But I think in this one, I'm just going to go for the bluish effect. I'm going to actually change it so there's just a bit more of the cyan in the image. You can also adjust the opacity to make the effect more or less intense. Your 4th step is to choose a shape. I actually really like these kind of half effects. And if you turn off black and white, you can see that really makes a super fun effect. I'd like to think that, you could use this on social media and you could use this more subtle background for your text. Now, at any point, if you don't like what you've done, you can click on the Reset Image button and start again. So let's have a look at what one of these gradients would look like. You can actually change the direction of the gradient as well. I think I like the purple at the bottom there. And with this shape, you can actually move it along around on your page wherever you'd like it to be. So when you're happy with how everything looks, you can click Next. And then you have the option to save your work or continue editing in the quick or expert mode, or you can share it on social media, or you can just click done and you'll be taken right back to where you were before. Just click on the image and then change to expert mode. When you click expert mode, you will get to see the behind the scenes layers of how they have created this look. So I always think that is pretty fun. And in this case, you can actually see that we've got a gradient shape here that you can turn on or off. And then in expert mode, you can further play around with your image to add text and save it. There's dozens of guided edits in Photoshop Elements. These work like tutorials to guide you through the process of doing more complicated edits. So I'm going to select a photograph and show you the new Move and Scale Object guided edit. Click on there, and as usual for a guided edit, we see all the instructions and the tools we need in the right hand panel. So let's get started. I'm going to choose the auto select, and I'm going to draw a box around Matthew. I just want to move him. I thought I'd start with a challenging one since this has got quite a few flowers in the background. Let's hear how Photoshop goes. Now we can add or remove areas to our selection. And I'm going to zoom in. This looks actually pretty good. So now I'm just going to click move to move Matthew in the photo. I'm going to put him there and let's see how we go. Now you can see Photoshop Elements has removed Matthew and moved him over. And although this would probably have worked flawlessly if the grass was just plain green with all these wildflowers in the background, it's left a little to be desired. But don't worry, you can fix any remaining issues with the spot healing tool and the clone stamp tool. So I could go along here, but for a background like this that is fairly busy, the clone stamp will work better. So I'm going to increase the size of the clone stamp. I'm going to look for an area that has a similar color background. For example, it's also in the shadow. And then I'm going to use my Alt or Option key on the Mac to select the area to clone, and then I'm going to use my mouse button to click where I want to add the cloned flowers. Now you can see that is looking so much better already. And we can click next. We have the option to save it as a PSD file, which I'm going to do. And then I can continue editing in quick or in expert mode. Let's go over to expert mode and you can see the layers here. If we turn off, you can see the original and then there's our copy here. Now, if we wanted to improve the photo even more, we could just get rid of this little tire thing in the foreground. There we go. So that's how you can use the guided edit, move and scale objects. It's also really handy for portraits or group photos where one person is slightly away from the rest. What do you think you'll use move and scale object for? Let's take a look at another new feature. Under the Create menu this time, it's Create Quote Graphic. The Create features, you'll need to click on either Organizer or Photo Editor and select the photo that you want to create the quote graphic from. Then go up to the top right hand side under the Create menu, you'll see Quote Graphic. I think this is going to be a great feature for those of us who love to post to social media or who are working with a small business or just developing our own brand online. You can see there's several preset templates, or you can start from scratch or start with a photo. I'm going to choose the Facebook post option. When you create the quote graphic, you'll be taken into a different interface where all of the features you'll need to use are on the right hand side. It's a little bit reminiscent of our guided edit. I'm going to pop open my photo bin and just drag on my photo, but you can click to add the photo from your computer or from Organizer. But since my photo is right here, I'm just going to click and drag it on. So once we have our photo, you can actually move it to get a good crop, and you can use the slider to zoom in or out. You can also, instead of a photo, use a background image that's provided. And let's go back to our photo. Now, underneath the background, the next step is to choose a border. I think I will use a border on this one because it's an old photo and I want it to have that kind of Polaroid look to it. I can also flip the image if I need to. You can apply some effects to your photo and then you can click no effect. You can apply any effect and then adjust the intensity if it's a bit too much for your photo. Or you can reset your photo by clicking on this reset button at the top of the panel. So I'm just going to leave my photo as it is and then move on to the next section. We've looked at background, now we've got text. For text, there's a few different arrangements of text that you can use. I really like the original one here. And then you can click edit text and then double click to type your text. You can adjust several things, such as the line spacing, letter spacing, and the font. And then click the check mark, and you can of course change the color as well if you'd like. When you've finished playing around with your text, click the check mark. Now I'm just going to be moving this a little bit because it was halfway over the horizon, so I'm just going to move it completely into the sky. And maybe make it slightly bigger. The next tab is the style options. The style options tab allows you to completely change the look of your image. It applies a style to the photo and changes to your text. You can play around with any of them and then just click reset to go back to what you've chosen before. And then finally we have animation. And this is where we can choose to add a bit of movement to our image, which can always be scroll stopping on social media. So I'm going to try this photo animation. It's kind of zooming in on that boat there. This is quite fun. And here we have the text and the photo moving. So you can play around with all those animations to see how you like them. If you want to keep the animation on your quote graphic, you'll need to save it now. So you click save and that'll export your quote graphic as an animated GIF, which will keep the animation going. Just click OK. And it'll process a bit to give you the very best results to your animations. Now, when we click done, you'll be taken back to the mode that you were already working in. So I'm in expert mode here, and you can see that we've got all the text, shape, all those fun layers that we can play around and do more with the quote graphic. You also have a new feature that allows you to access your Creative Cloud storage from within Photoshop Elements. If you already have a Creative Cloud account, you'll have some space available to you. If you want to, you can use that within Photoshop Elements. When you first save or save as your photos, you have an option to save your photos to the cloud or to your computer. If you click to the cloud, you'll be prompted to name your file and then you click save. And then when you go to your Creative Cloud desktop, you can go to your Elements photos and all of the photos you have worked on and saved in the cloud will appear there. This is a great feature if you already have a cloud subscription for other software or if you want to go ahead and purchase your own cloud storage with Adobe. So that's a little look at the brand new features in Photoshop Elements 2021. If you're interested in learning more about the features that have been added to Organizer, click subscribe and click on the bell to be notified of when I post a new video. The next one up is about Photoshop Elements Organizer and then the one you've all been waiting for, whether you should upgrade. If you'd like to learn more about digital scrapbooking, photo organising or Photoshop elements, head to digitalscrapbookinghq.com.